Birds fed him, and he drank out of a brook. And he had to do that, and then the brook dried up. And then Elijah had to go back and he had to confront the king. But before that, he had to go to a widow woman's house and he had to feed her. And then her son died and he had to bring the son back to life. And none of this had anything to do with Elijah except to build his faith.
Right.
And then he had to go back and he had to go to Ahab and he had to say, it's going to rain again. And it rained again. And you think that Elijah would have been put up on a pedestal and run through the streets in a parade. But Ahab's wife Jezebel said, no, you killed my prophets, I'm going to kill you. Yes. And that is when Elijah broke. I'm going to tell you that God, you know, my Aunt Jane says this all the time. I think my mom used to say it, and diverse temptations. Elijah was in diverse temptations. And he finally broke. And he said, God, just let me die. I've had enough. I can't take anymore. But you have to understand that God wasn't finished with Elijah yet. He wasn't finished with him. He had more work for him to do for God. And it's funny because God next prophesied and said that Jehu was going to be the king. And Elijah had to prophesy that. And it still took another 33 years. And in our home over the last few weeks, we've been doing Bible studies and we've been Facebook Living them. And you know, God has got us in this place to where He needs us to know that He's been breaking us down.
Yes.
He's been putting us through things because there are people out there in this world that need God. There are people out in this world that need something more than they're getting. And I've been talking quite a bit lately about the tearing down, about the humbling, like Sister Andre was talking about how we don't know. Do you understand that, and I can't remember, it'll come back to me, but there was a period of time when Elijah was in a cave and God didn't speak to him. And all of a sudden it said, and God spoke to Elijah. How many times in our life are we yelling and screaming out to God and we don't feel like He's listening? We don't feel like we can hear His voice. We don't feel these things. That is the time of God tearing down to build up. And I've spent the last few weeks talking about the tearing down. And about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half ago, Brother Raymond texted me. My wife said, why are you highlighting? I said, never mind. Because I wasn't going to tell her, I didn't even say anything. But I was going through Scripture, and God gave me this message today, and I hope it'll help somebody. I don't get up here for any other reason. I hope that you can walk away today. I hope it's not too long. I hope you can walk away today, and you can feel encouraged that whatever you're going through, and it doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter if you've done it yourself. It doesn't matter if you haven't done it. It doesn't matter if you feel like that you've done all these things for God and God is not answering you. We are in a period of time when God is trying to break us down to build a little story here. In Psalms 51:17, it says the sacrifices of God. The sacrifices of God. We should all listen. We should all perk up and say, what can I do? The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. Yep. Broken down. Well, why does God have to do that? I don't know. God has to get us into a place. Do you think that Elijah could have done all of those things that he did if God hadn't got him into a place where he was willing and able to do that? The things that he did with the widow woman was just to build up their faith and nothing else. And in Matthew 16:24-25, it said, then said Jesus to his disciples, if any man come after me, let him deny himself. See, that's the problem that we're getting into in the world. It's all about me, us, all those participation trophies we gave away. It's all about making yourself feel good. But God said you need to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me. Deny yourself, because you may not like what's going on. You may not want to. I doubt if Elijah wanted. You understand something. I want you to understand something. I don't know how long Elijah was in that cave, but when he got out of the cave and he went to the widow woman, he said, will you please give me some food? The birds, could you imagine how he was being fed by the ravens? Could you imagine how God was sustaining Elijah? And I guarantee you, because it says in James that he was of like passions, just like we were. And the fact that he was being fed by a bird, probably from its beak, he said specifically to the widow woman, feed me from your hand. I can't imagine how long he had to go. But God said, deny yourself. In 2 Corinthians 4:16 and 17, it says, for which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish. And sometimes we feel like every day we're perishing. But the inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction. What is going on right now? The biggest thing that's happening in our lives right now that we don't think we can get past. God is saying it is light. It is a light affliction. It's only going to be there for the moment. I used to tell my students, and I would always like to talk to my students about other things. And I'd say, what was important to you 5 years ago? Is it still important to you now? And 5 years ago to a 12-year-old would have made them what, 7? You know? No, I don't play with those. Think about how you're going to feel 5 years from now. Be careful. What's going on in your life right now will pass. How you handle it, how you go about it, that is what's important. Because you never know what's going to happen in the future. And God says it's just for a moment. And notice what it says at the end of this. It says, it worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory.
Yes.
Flip down to Philippians. Skip the next one. Go to Philippians. In Philippians 3:8 it says, yea, doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ. Just the knowledge. Just the knowledge. Everything. I count everything as loss, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Christ. Think about that. Think about it. I'm going to read a little story here. And like I said at the beginning, I don't know why, but God allows things to happen in our life, and things get torn down in our lives. And sometimes we look back at our lives and think, what on earth just happened? Everything was great a year ago. Everything was great 2 years ago. We're going to talk about the building up. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to let you in a little spoiler alert. The building up, when God builds you up, He's not building you up for you. He is building you up for others.
Right.
He is building you up for Him. He's building you up to take care of what He needs to take care of. Because and this is what we all should be happy about. God wouldn't work with you if He didn't think He could work with you.
Right.
God wouldn't tear you down if He didn't think He could build you up. If He didn't see something in you that He knew that when He called your name, you says, here am I. What do you need from me? No matter what. I promise you, Elijah, because it says he's of like passions, so it means he's like me. I promise you, Elijah did not want to go back to King Ahab. I guarantee you he didn't want to go back there again. I guarantee you some of the things that happened in his life, he was getting weary with. We're going to go to the book of Nehemiah. And we're going to talk about the building back up and what happens, because there's going to come a time in our life, if it hasn't already started, that God's going to start building back up again. And it's not going to be a playtime. It's not going to be all festive. There are things that are going to happen, but we've got to hold on. We've got to hang on. Because when God's finished, something miraculous is going to happen. And let me read this, and I hope you can follow along with me here. In Nehemiah 4, it says, it came to pass. It came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, building back up, he was wroth and took indignation and mocked the Jews. He spoke before his brethren in this army of Samaria and said, what are these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in the day? Will they revive the stones out of the heap of the rubbish which were burned? See, you don't think there are people out there right now looking and saying, oh, what are they trying to do? They've done this before. They've built themselves up before. What do they think they're doing? Oh, now they're going to follow God. Now they're going to start going to church. Now they're going to start doing things. There are people out there, and the devil is right there sometimes on our shoulder telling us, you think you're going to do this again? You failed every other time.
Yeah.
Now, Tobiah the Ammonite was with him. And we're talking about the bad guys here. And he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our God, for we are despised and turn their reproach. For we are despised and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity, and cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out from before thee, for they have provoked thee to anger before the builders. These are the Israelites talking. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof. Why? Because the people had a mind to work.
Yeah.
Think about that. The people had a mind to work.
Amen.
It wasn't just one, and I'm going to get through this here. And it came to pass when the Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites had heard the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, they were very wroth. As you start growing back in God, or as you start growing in God, and as you start getting closer to God, and as you understand there are little breaches that are going to be there, because as God's building you up, and as God starts stopping those breaches by your prayer life, by your Bible reading life, by you listening to the Word of God and applying it to your life. Remember, it says to be doers of the Word, not just hearers of the Word. As those things are happening in your life, there are things out there that are going to try to stop it. And these people were mad because Jerusalem was fortifying itself. And they were like, we're not going to let them do this. I'm forgetting this thing. And said they conspired, all of them together, to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. I'm going to walk out of this room, this building today. Hopefully we're going to feel good about the message. Hopefully we're going to feel good and we're going to feel strong in God. We're going to walk out there and somebody's going to try to hinder us. Mm-hmm. We're going to get a phone call.
Right.
Always. Somebody's going to pull out in front of us, Uncle Mark.
Yes.
Somebody's going to be, our food's going to be terrible. Our service is going to be terrible. Something's going to happen to hinder us. Because as God is building us up, it isn't a party. It isn't a festive time. But God's doing it. There's the powers of the enemy are going to come up against you because He knows how powerful you can be in God.
That's right. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you, Caleb.
Now, it says in verse number 9, nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God and set a watch against them day and night because of them. And that's something like Sister Andrea was talking about. We need to be praying. You know, I did a message on New Year's Day, the last year that we had our building in Muncie. And it talked about what would happen if we prayed for every single person in the congregation, every single person that has walked through these doors. How would that change? And it says He set a watch. There are people watching and making sure that those things aren't going to happen. Making sure that the building up that God was doing was going to be complete. And Judah said, here we go. Now understand this. I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. And Judah said, the strength of the bearers of burdens is decayed, and there is so much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And the adversaries are saying, they shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease. That's Job's wife. That's people that you look up to that are strong Christians that say, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Those are those people. And this was Judah talking about this. And a little more discouragement. And it came to pass that when the Jews which dwelt by them, we're talking about the edges of the wall, came, they said unto us 10 times, from all the places which ye shall return upon us, they will be upon you. More doubt. Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall, of the higher places I even set the people with their families and their swords and their spears and their bows. He got everybody involved. And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers, the rest of the people, be not afraid of them. Remember the Lord, which is great and terrible, and will fight for your brethren, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your houses. Just when you think there's no hope, just when people are telling you there's no hope, just when people are saying the person's too far gone to serve God, just when you think that you need to remember this, you need to remember the Lord.
Right. Yes.
And who He is. And that is, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how bad the wall looks, no matter how bad the breaches look, no matter how many people are around the wall getting ready to come and to take you over, remember the Lord.
Yes.
Don't forget. You look out at your friends and your family and the people that you work with and the people in your circle, and you think they're never going to serve God. You invite them to church. You invite them to Bible study. You invite them to these things, and they never show up, and they don't come. And maybe they come once, but then they never come again. Or they keep saying they'll come. Or the phenomenon that me and what's her name? What's her name? Lindsay found out. That if you put the word church in a text message, they don't get it. Right, Lindsay?
Yeah. Yeah, because like...
She's giving me all kinds of ideas of what to put in there and said the word church. Because I've been teasing her. I'm like, every time I put the word church in a text message, nobody gets it. So let me keep going here. I don't want to. All right. It says, it came to pass when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and that God had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one, and to his work. And it came to pass from that time forth that the half of the servants wrought the work, the other half held both the spears, the shields, the bows, and the tabernaeles, and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah. They which builded the wall, and they which bear burdens with those that laden, every one with one of his own hands wrought in the work, and the other hand held the weapon. Everybody was in one mind and one accord. For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so builded. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. And it says, I said unto the nobles and to the rulers and the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. In what place, therefore, you shall hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us, our God shall fight for us. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So they went on, and they didn't stop. Now I want you to go down to 23, Sister Deborah. I want you to get this. It says, neither I, nor my brethren, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that every one put them off for washing. They never stopped. There are times in our lives when we need to be diligent, when we need to be alert, especially when we know that God is building us back up and the things are hitting us. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we get aggravated at the person that pulls out in front of us, or the bad food at the restaurant, or our loved ones when they make that phone call and they say something, or they get us. But we have to understand when those things happen, when the things happen that's trying to discourage us and get us off track. We need to make sure that we're diligent and we're alert, and we understand that it's the enemy trying to put us right back. Because I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to do a math thing real quick, and it's not going to be too much of a math thing. Every person falls to the lowest common denominator. I've seen it. I've seen teachers at my school, when I introduce something new to them, they'll try it and then they'll fall back on what they used to, and you go back in their classroom a week later and they're doing the exact same thing they were doing before. You know what I mean? I'm not putting them down. I'm not saying anything bad about them. But that's what happens.
Yes.
And you always fall back to what you're used to.
Yeah.
After Jesus died, Peter went fishing. He went right back to what he was used to. Because he didn't know what else to do.
He was like, wow.
And when things are happening and things are coming up against us, and that's when we need to be diligent. We need to understand that God is fighting for us.
Yes.
The traitor. He left Jesus to die, and he was like, okay, let's go fishing.
Let's move on here.
Please.
In Nehemiah 6, all Nehemiah 5 talks about is helping the poor there. So we'll move on to finish the story here. And it came to pass when Sanballat, or Ballet, or whatever, and Tobiah, and Gesem the Arabian, and the rest of our enemies heard that I had builded the wall, and there was no breach therein. Although at the time, I had not set the doors upon the gates. Then those two guys sent unto me, saying, Come, let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of Ono. But they thought to do me mischief. And I sent messengers unto them, saying, Listen, I got a great work here, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave and come down to visit you, come down to you? They sent unto me 4 more times. I want you to get this. The breach was done. Everything in the fort and the wall was finished except for the doors. It was done. This is when you're the strongest. And the enemy is still attacking. And he said, listen, why don't you just come down and talk to me for a little while and we'll get this all sorted out, this nonsense that we had. And he goes, listen, I'm not coming down there. I've got work to do, because God had shown him, this is the enemy. This is the enemy. And looky, it says they sent it to me 4 times. 4 times. And he came back with 4 times the same message. I got work to do for God. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time to go back to where I was.
Right.
I don't have time to do those things that I did before. I'm a different person. God has built me up. I'm a changed person. I don't have time to go back and to deal with you. Hallelujah. There's a Bible study right there, that verse. Now, you think he's done? I mean, the devil took Jesus over and over and over. You think he's done? Let's read what it says. And then the guy, his servant unto me, he sent his servant unto me in the matter the 5th time with an open letter in his hand. You know what he said?
What?
Where it is written, it is reported among the heathen, and that Gashmu saith, that thou and the Jews think to rebel, for which cause thou buildest the wall, that thou mayest be the king, according to these words. And thou hast also appointed prophets to preach of thee at Jerusalem, saying, there is a king in Judah, and now shall it be reported to the king according to these words. Come now, therefore, and let us take counsel together. He basically said, listen, I've got a letter here that says the reason you're building the wall is because you want to be king of Judah, and just wait till the king of Judah finds out. What do you think he's going to do then? How do you think he's going to respond then? He says, if you don't want me to send this letter out, you need to come visit with me. If you don't want me to tell everybody what you did, you'll come down and drink with me. You'll come down to the bar with me. You'll come down and do this with me. He's not done. He's hitting him. It didn't work, but he could be hitting him right where he was vulnerable.
Right.
Because you don't know the king of Judah. He's saying, listen, the enemy makes up lies. When I sent unto him, saying, there is no such thing done as thou sayest, but thou feignest them out of thine own heart. You made them up. And for they all made us afraid, saying, their hand shall be weakened from the work, that it be not done. Now therefore, O God, strengthen my hands.
Amen.
Afterward, I came into the house of Shimei and the son of Delilah, the son of Mehetabeel, who was shut up, and he said, let us meet together in the house of God within the temple, and let us shut the doors of the temple, for they will come to slay thee, yea, in the night will they come to slay thee. And I said, should such a man as I flee? And who is there that being as I am would go to the temple to save his life? I will not go in. So the devil used a prophet to lie.
Oh, yeah.
I barely can go to service without saying this. 36,000 denominations of Christianity. 33, 36, something like that, it doesn't matter. 36,000. Think about that. Not all prophets are of God.
That's
And this
right.
prophet wasn't of God. And he said, you need to flee. Because what do you think that would have done to the people had he hid himself? After all this time, he was preaching. And we got to be careful. We got to be careful when we're witnessing for God. When we're preaching or we're doing Bible studies or we're witnessing for God, that we don't end up falling out because people are always watching. People are always looking toward us. And how would it have looked had he decided, oh, you're a prophet, you must be telling the truth, let's go flee. After he said that God is going to take care of us, God is going to build the wall, God is going to do all these things, and all of a sudden he's hidden. All of these different things that the enemy tried to use. I promise you, I'm just about done. Therefore was he hired that I should be afraid and do so in sin, and that they might have matter for an evil report, that they may reproach me. My God, think thou upon Tobiah and Sanballat, according to these their works, and on the prophetess Noadiah and the rest of the prophets, that they that would have put me in fear. So the wall was finished in the 25th of the month, in 52 days. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard thereof, and all the heathen that were about us saw these things, they were much cast down in their own eyes. Do you get it? There's a rainbow at the end.
Yes.
There's a blessing at the end.
Yes.
There's a blessing at the end.
Amen, brother.
All of these people that have come up against you, all of the times the devil has come up against you, they are going to cast their eyes down because you're going to become victorious. Because you're going to be victorious in God, and you're not going to let go, and you're not going to give up.
Amen.
It's going to happen. Moreover, in those days the nobles of Judah sent many letters unto Tobiah, and the letters of Tobiah came unto them. And there were many in Judah sworn unto him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Ereh, the son of Joanna, had taken blah, 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 blah. And they reported his good deeds unto me, and uttered my words unto him. And Tobiah sent letters to put me in fear. Now I want to finish this up. Now, understand that all of these things were happening, and one man was pretty much in charge of leading the pack. One person, one pastor, one person was in charge of encouraging everybody and keeping them working and keeping them going and keeping the enemy away from them. One person. But it wasn't for that person. I want you to read this.
No.
Jeremiah 7, 1 through 5. And it came to pass, when the wall was built, and I had set up the doors, and the porters and singers and Levites were appointed, that I gave my brother Hananiah, the ruler of the palace, charge over Jerusalem, for he was a faithful man and feared God above many. And I said unto them, let not the gates of Israel be opened until the sun be hot, and while they stand by, let them shut the doors and bar them, and appoint watches of the inhabitants of Jerusalem, every one in his watch, and every one to be over against his house. Now the city was large and great, but the people were few therein, and the houses were not builded. Next verse. And my God put in my heart to gather together the nobles and the rulers and the people, that they might be reckoned by genealogy. Yeah, I had to throw that in there. And I found a register of the genealogy of them which came up at the first, and found written therein. And if you keep reading, they started returning back because of the wall. See, this didn't have anything to do with Nehemiah. This didn't have anything to do with one man. This had to do with bringing the people back. This had to do with that. And without a strong leader, without someone strong that is going to be able to withstand the wiles of the enemy and be able to withstand all these things that are happening, it wouldn't have never happened. Because you had Judah and all these other things. The people were coming and saying, listen, we can't do this. We can't take care of this. They're too great. There are too many of them. We're living in rubble. We have all this rubbish here. We can't do this. We can't do that. And there had to be one man just to stand in the gap and say, we will do this. We will be victorious. We will take care of this. And God just built it up. And you know what? It could be every single person in the sanctuary, in your own circle, in your own family, in your own friends, in your own coworkers, in your own schoolmates. It could be you. It could be you that you just don't understand what God's doing right now. You don't understand why things are going so wrong. You don't understand why you're living in a cave and having a bird feed you out of its mouth. You don't understand why these things are happening, why the brook dried up, why all these things are going on. But God has a plan. God's going to take care of it. Last verse. Everybody's clapping in their head. Did you have the last verse? Oh. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate the support.
I clapped too. I clapped too.
It says, come, and let us return unto the Lord.
Man.
For he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. And let me tell you, I guess I did have it. I don't know what you're going through today. I know what I'm going through today. I know what my family's going through today. And I want to tell you that when Raymond texted me, I was going through a bunch of stuff, going through a bunch of scriptures, right after he texted me, trying to come up with something. And God laid this on my heart. So there's somebody or somebody's plural in here that needs to hear this. Now, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bad things are, God is there, and God is trying to get you in a place so you can help someone else. It's not about us.
Right.
We want it to be about us. I want it to be about me. It's not. And there is nothing greater in this world. I've had people come to me, and there's nothing greater. You know, we had a church for about 4 or 5 years, and I've had people recently come up to me and tell me that they now believe what I was preaching. That God has showed them the things, the Bible studies, the sermons, or whatever, however it was, that God had showed them that is the way they're supposed to go. And there's nothing better on this earth. Nothing.
That's
no
right.
car, no house,
Nope.
no job, nothing.
Amen.
Nothing is better on this earth than knowing you've won somebody to God.
Right.
Amen. Hallelujah. I'm finished.
Thanks for watching.
The whirlwind is over.
Thanks for watching. Bye. Yeah!